subject, never
forsaking God.
forsaking.
13:5.
All right. So you were listening. Amen. And so after the singing of purpose, even if it's only one, it's still purpose. The next preaching voice you will hear will be that of the Reverend Dr. Roberson, the eminent, esteemed, and illustrious pastor of the Southern Baptist Church in the village of Harlem. Let us hear him.
Holy Spirit, give me the words that will bring you life. Words of the wings of the morning. The dark nights will fade away if you speak to my heart. Speak to my heart, Holy Spirit, give me the words that will bring you life. Words of the wings of the morning. The dark clouds will fade away if you speak to my heart. Speak to my heart, Holy Spirit. Message of love to encourage me, lifting my heart from despair. How you love me and care for me. Please speak to my heart. Speak to my heart, Holy Spirit. Message of love to encourage me, lifting my heart from despair. How you love me and care for me. Speak to my heart. Speak to my heart. Speak to my heart. Speak to my heart. Oh, speak to my heart. Speak to my heart, Lord. Give me your holy word. If I can't hear from you, I don't know what to do. I won't go alone. I'll never go on my own. Just as your spirit guides, and if your word abides. Speak to my heart, Lord. Oh, give me your holy word. If I can't hear from you, I don't know what to do. I won't go alone. Oh Lord, I'm Were the wings of the morning, the dark clouds will fade away if you speak to my heart. Speak to my heart.
Keep on talking to me. What the song says. Keep on talking to me. Come on. Keep on talking to me. Come on, everybody ought to be singing that. Because you're the one that's spirit to talk to you tonight. Keep on talking to me. Keep on talking to me. Talk to me. Come on, open up the house. Come on, what you say? Words of my mouth and meditation of my heart might be acceptable and pleasing in thy sight. And you will get all the glory, all the honor, all the praise. Satan, I want you to know you're already defeated. Amen. You have no authority here. You have no control here. I already declare that this word is falling on fertile soil. And just as it's raining outside, it will cause that word to grow within the lives of the hearers, that will all be doers and not just hearers of your word only. So we bless you now. We praise you. We thank you in advance for what you're going to do, God. I give your name glory. I give your name honor. I give your name praise. And it's in the mighty, matchless name of Jesus. We pray with thanksgiving. We say hallelujah. Amen. 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 Bethesda. Hey. Good evening.
Good evening.
Praise the name of Jesus. I'm excited tonight. I'm excited because I'm here.
Amen.
In the house of the Lord. I pressed my way through many dangerous toils and snares. I've already come. It took me almost 3 hours to get here. But I'm glad to be here in Jesus' name.
Amen.
And I don't care if you came as far as I did around the corner. It's just good to be in the house of the Lord one more time.
Amen.
And my prayer tonight, my prayer on the way here is that your coming won't be in vain. You didn't come to see me, you came to hear a word from the Lord. Again, I'm grateful to my pastor, Reverend Dr. Alan Paul Weaver Jr., who has been so kind to me. I was thinking about this, Dr. Weaver. Periodically, I think about how the only thing that my friend Craig Brown has gone for him when he gets to the throne is he could say he introduced me to you. I'm grateful to God for that. I talked to Brown yesterday and today. I didn't tell him I was talking bad about him, but I talked about him. Again, we give honor to you and to your lovely wife in your absence, and your co-pastor in his absence, to the ministerial team here, to the diaconate, to all the lay leaders here, to these great musicians and great voices that make up the people here at Bethesda. Again, we say good evening unto you.
Good evening.
I'm going to ask that you would journey with me tonight to the gospel according to St. John. Thank you, St. John. I'm grateful that someone remembered what we talked about last night. Courage in my heart. St. John chapter 21 is where I am. Reading from the New Revised Standard Version. If you meet me at verse 15, again, that's St. John chapter 21, beginning our reading at verse, what verse?
15.
Verse 15. It reads like this. When they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? He said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said to him, feed my lambs. The second time he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said to him, tend my sheep. He said to him the third time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter felt hurt because he said to him the third time, do you love me? And he said to him, Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you. Jesus said to him, feed my sheep. Thus ends the reading of God's word. I want to talk to you for a time the Spirit locks into us and let you know how Jesus deals with trauma. How Jesus deals with trauma. I'll say that again because I see some of you writing, taking notes. That's a great thing. I'm talking about how Jesus, not how you and I, but how Jesus deals with trauma. So I know we're on the same page. I need y'all to talk back to me. What am I talking about tonight?
How Jesus deals with trauma.
Amen. How Jesus deals with trauma. Trauma is something that is heavy on people of every hue here in America. I did not know how good I had it, Dr. Weaver, growing up in the suburbs of New Jersey. My father being a professional, my mother didn't have to leave the house to go to work. I didn't know how good my 5 siblings and I had it. So I went to a great school system. People from my high school went to military academies, went to Ivy League schools. It was not unusual for me to see people doing well. When I went to see my family that lived in Jersey City, that lived in Brooklyn, that lived in Philadelphia, I saw they weren't doing as well as we were doing. And I realized that there was a certain stress level that they were under, even as children, that I was not under. I realized I could go next door and go jump in somebody's pool, and the best they can do is go jump in somebody's fire hydrant. I realized that I could wear my sneakers out on purpose and get a new pair within about a week. But they would have to sometimes have cardboard in their sneakers until they got a new pair. Never had to worry about coming home from school and finding the lights off or no food in the refrigerator. I didn't realize how good I had it growing up. Then when I went off to college and I met some people that looked like me but didn't live like I lived. And they told me all the trauma that they went through. How some people knew that they better stay in school if they wanted to better themselves and not go back to what they came out of. Wow. And truth be told, some of us that have already ascended and have a few degrees, if we're not careful, we will think more highly of ourselves than what we ought to think. And the only difference between me and somebody that does not have any initials before or after their name is just the mere fact that God has purposed it in his heart for me to be where I am.
Amen.
And perhaps I'm not even living out everything he desires for me to do. So we ought to be careful how we look down on somebody when they're going through something.
Amen.
The truth is, you might know the story, but you don't know the glory. If you watch them while they're going through, stay there to see how they come out on the other side.
Preach.
Then while you're there, you ought to be doing some work. Don't just sit there and talk about them, but you ought to be praying for them and helping them out.
Amen.
I got to get this off my chest because I believe I'll preach a little better tonight if I get it off my chest. I get sick and tired of people that say they're Christians but have no love in their heart. Jesus is indeed love. And the thing that happens is oftentimes our actions are diametrically opposed to our Christ.
Good.
What happens sometimes, and I told you last night how I got some issues and how sometimes somebody will say something nasty to me. My nature is to say something nasty back. Come on, we know one another. It's not my first time. I don't mind talking about it. But greater is he that's within me.
Amen.
And I got to die so he can live. Because even though I think I still know how to box pretty well, but I'm not going in the ring with anybody, but I know what I used to do. But guess what? Because somebody acts crazy with me does not give me the liberty to act crazy with them. And then when I stop and look at what happens in the area, in the community in which I pastor, and I thank God I'm in a decent section of Harlem, a decent section of Manhattan, but I realize all I have to do is walk a few blocks. Some people that are laying out. I can't even get on the subway without somebody asking me for a swipe. You know, swipe the Metro card for me. No, somebody wants something all the time. And I realize that some of us have gotten tired of going through what we're going through. And the trauma has been so heavy, the burden is so heavy, that we give up. We quit. Some of us know the Lord, but we quit and we say, I'm going to medicate my pain. I'm going to medicate it through some alcohol. I'm going to medicate my pain through drugs. I'm going to medicate my pain through doing whatever that's going to take my mind off of the trauma I'm going through. Well, if Christians would really just stand up and do what Christ has already commissioned us to do, I believe we'd be able to manage trauma a little better.
Amen.
As disciples of Jesus Christ, well, first let me tell you what a disciple is so we don't get this thing twisted. Because I realize there are church members. I still don't know really what they are. I think they just have their names listed on the roll. And it's like about 2,000 of them that say they're members at Southern. I don't see all of them, but they say. But a disciple is a follower, one who accepts and assists in the spreading of the good news of Jesus Christ. That's
Amen.
really what a disciple is. And then the trademark of a Christian disciple is love. Because if Jesus is our elder brother, and if we have the same spirit of him, then we ought to be filled with love.
Amen.
Now, I want you to understand that we've got to be careful. We've got to be careful because the enemy is trying to pimp us and use us and distort our love. And what he does, try to make us use it all up for the benediction. Because somebody's going to step on your toe on the way out. But as we go through trauma, I need you to understand that trauma is a distressing or disturbing experience. That's what trauma is. It's a distressing or disturbing experience. Trauma is a distressing or disturbing experience. And truth be told, all of us have suffered some kind of trauma. All of us have experienced the death of a loved one, and it has been traumatic on us. I don't mind telling you that when Pastor Johnny McCann died, suddenly I realized, Dr. Weaver, as I saw you at the homegoing, I did not know that when I saw you on that Friday, come Monday morning, I would be dealt with a phone call, have to deal with a phone call where one of my friends who I met through Craig Brown, and when I was in middle school, another pastor preacher at the age of 58 had a heart attack on Labor Day Monday. And I had double trauma, if you will, dealing with Johnny, now dealing with Dave. And when I heard about Dave, I couldn't even move. I couldn't move. I don't know how long I was in the bed before I was able to pick up the phone and call somebody after hearing the news, because I was traumatized. And some of us have experienced trauma. If I could put it out here, just be real clear for you tonight. Some of us have been traumatized by a breakup, by loss of a boyfriend or girlfriend. Somebody's been traumatized by the loss of a job. You did all you could. You went to work all the time. You was on time. You didn't take long lunch breaks. You stayed late. You did all you were supposed to do, but still they let you go. Or you got overlooked for promotion, and you're traumatized. And then domestic violence. Somebody, and I'm not asking anybody to raise their hand, but somebody here has experienced domestic violence. Either you've been bludgeoned, or you were the abuser, or you sat and watched somebody and couldn't do anything, and you've been traumatized. Or maybe it's your neighbors that you hear crying out in the middle of the night, and you are traumatized by domestic violence. I want to let you know that trauma can also be found in those of us that either have used drugs or alcohol, or those who have not used but had somebody close to you. And maybe they lived in the house with you. And you scared of your own children and grandchildren. Never know you got to put everything on lockdown. Because the whole house now is traumatized. I didn't come to make you shout tonight. I'm just trying to help somebody. That's all.
Amen.
Jesus deals with trauma. How children act up because they have witnessed traumatic experiences. Then they go to the schoolhouse and they act the fool down there because they don't know how to deal with the trauma at home.
Amen.
And then they come here, they show off in Sunday school, or don't come at all, and they act up because they're traumatized. And then they grow up, and here's what happens, because some of us think that Jesus will fix it after a while. Yes, he will, but some of us also need some couch time.
Amen.
I have no problem saying I can't fix everything in Southern. I can pray for you, I can counsel you, but some of my counsel sometimes is telling you need to go see somebody that's credentialed and prepared that can handle your situation. Well, prison has a traumatic effect on people. I was talking to one of my cousins today, and unfortunately, I'm not proud to say this, really not proud to say this, but some of my people, some people that have my bloodline are behind bars. We're talking about my older cousin Ernie, who's been away for 47 years. And keeps getting denied parole because the family of the one he murdered, they show up. They show up at his parole hearings. And if Ernie ever got out, I really believe he'd be traumatized after being away for 47 years. Being in prison. And you don't have to be locked up to be in a prison. It's traumatized. And some folk, because some of us walk down the street, or we'll see somebody walking down the street talking to themselves, not because they're reminding themselves of where they're going or what they got to do, it's because something's not right. Because they've experienced trauma. And then trauma brings about something that happens to folk if they've grown up or continue to live in poverty. Because when I see my own family that I told you about earlier in Philadelphia, Jersey City, Brooklyn, when I talk to them and I see how they are dealing with life now, I realize that some of them have never gotten over the trauma of poverty. And if we're not careful, poverty begets poverty. I hope I'm talking to somebody.
Amen.
And then all of us, because I'm talking to people that are of every hue, I can get really real with y'all tonight. All of us are suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic slavery syndrome.
Well.
Yeah. And since I'm here, I might as well say this because I'm going to get to my points in a second. But within our own culture, we got some foolishness to go through. I was raised in a generation, unfortunately, where we were perhaps, I'd like to think perhaps, that I'm the last generation that has to deal with what I call the civil war amongst our own people. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the rich versus the poor, dark skin versus the light skin, straight hair versus the natural hair, the thin versus the heavy. That all of us have to understand that God created us in his own image.
Amen.
And because somebody has a little bit more, a little less melanin, was not their doing. Somebody's hair texture or lack thereof was not their doing. And it's up to us to love everybody. But because we suffer from post-traumatic slavery syndrome or disorder, I want us to understand that it brings about a certain level of stress and it brings about trauma. This trauma that I'm talking about has been done to us, the people of color. We've been under stress from the moment we landed here. We've been under stress. We didn't ask to come here, but yet here we are, still here. And some folk have the nerve to tell us to go home. We don't know where home is.
Preach.
But while I'm here, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. The Lord made it well. This is not my home, but when I leave here, I'm going home.
Amen.
But trauma brings about trauma. Let me say it again. Trauma brings about trauma. Because when you're dealing with trauma and you don't know how, sometimes you don't even know that you're traumatized, you sometimes bring on drama on other folk. I mentioned somebody stepping on somebody's toe. You know, you can't even bump into some people accidentally.
That's a fact.
Without them pulling a gun on you or a knife. And that happens even in the CHURCH. There's some folk that will speak in tongues at the altar, but they cuss you out in the vestibule. Because trauma brings about trauma. There's some folk that don't know how to act when they come to our church meetings because trauma brings about trauma. There's some folk that don't know how to talk to the man or woman of God and act like they can do whatever they want to do to us and act like they're going to get off scot-free. I want you to know, just because we didn't punch you in the mouth don't mean Jesus ain't going to take care of you.
Amen.
Because trauma brings about trauma.
Amen. Amen.
Let's not go too far. Let me deliver you to the scene. In our text, we find that here now, for those of you that have not discovered where I am in this story, that Jesus is now been resurrected. Jesus, who had been with the apostles on what we now call Maundy Thursday and had the Last Supper with them, and then went to the secret meeting place of him and the disciples. They went to the Mount of Olives. Then, no shock to Jesus, but a shock to others. The Roman soldiers come to take Jesus away. And Peter, who's his right-hand man, he stands and says, "Now on my watch are you going to do this?" He pulls out his sword and he cuts off the soldier's ear. Am I in the Bible?
Amen.
So what he does, what happens after that, we find out that Jesus takes the man's ear, puts it back on. And he didn't operate in a sterile environment. We don't know if Jesus had passed the medical exam or not, but he performed surgery right there in the garden. And then he allows them to drag him off to be brutalized and whipped and tormented all night long. And then as he is whipped and tortured, he now has to carry a cross on his back that's already been opened up because he'd been flogged and whipped and had been tormented so that his own mama didn't recognize him when he was on the cross. And then I got to tell you, he died on that Friday. He stayed dead all day Friday. I found out from reading the text about faith in Jesus, he stayed dead all day Saturday while folks shot at the Mall of Jerusalem, and as they already was excited, the fact that Passover had already come over, that here he now stayed dead all day Saturday. But the Bible tells me that there was a shaking and an earthquake, and there was the veil in the temple was ripped from the top to the bottom. And he who was once dead, he went to hell and snatched the keys of death and the grave from the wicked one. And now he got up on a Sunday morning.
Amen.
According to the story, I'm glad y'all don't mind me walking through the story. According to the story now, he sees the 11 because Judas had already committed suicide. And he sees them, he said, "What you fellas about to do?" And they didn't know him. He said, "Well, I'm going fishing." And they said, "We're going with you." I'm in John chapter 21. And then he goes and they can't find any fish. And then he stays on the edge of the boat and he's on the edge of the shore and he says, "Children, do you have any fish?" And they said, "No, we don't have any." And they said, "Cast your net to the right side of the boat." I don't know about you, but Jesus gives some good directions, because while he was giving directions, they said, "Wait a minute, why does this seem familiar to us? And who is this fella?" And I already told you, he did not look recognizable because he had been flogged, and his own mama didn't recognize him. Perhaps that's why these fellas that walked with him and slept alongside him and ate with him for 3 years didn't know who he was. And so eventually he said, "Bring some of the fish that you just caught to me, because we're going to have breakfast." And so Peter recognized him. Peter climbs out of the boat. He first goes on his outer garment and runs through the water because he was close enough. Then the others come in the other boats dragging the fish with them. It tells me in the text they brought 153, it's either 153, 157, I can't look for it right now. 53, praise the Lord. Thank God somebody knows how to read the Bible. 153 different fish with them. I had to ask the text, why does it tell us the number in that case of how many fish? I'll tell you, don't read the Bible too quick because you'll read right over something. I found out that at that time there were at least 153 different languages that were being spoken in that diaspora at that time. So therefore, it's symbolic of the fact that God wants everybody to be fed.
Amen.
Jesus now tells us to come and take bread and give it to me. And he did that, and he did the same with the fish. And it reminded them again of what had happened the week before on Thursday, how here's this fella now who's with us. And even though we had the Last Supper with him, but we remember eating breakfast with him also. And Jesus now turns to Simon Peter, the same one that could have been guilty of attempted homicide on Thursday. He looks at him and says, Simon, do you love me? Well, when I first read this text and first heard this as a youngster, I said to myself, this is simple, this is easy, because he's asked the same question over and over. But as I looked at it through a different lens, I realized that there's two different types of love Jesus is talking about. Y'all got time for me to unpack this for you?
Amen.
The first type of love he's talking about is filial, which is brotherly love. Filial, which is mutual regard. It's mutual regard. It's mutual exchange. When you say to somebody, I love you, and they'll say, I love you back.
Amen.
That's mutual exchange. And then prayerfully, when you show them that you love them, they'll show you back.
Amen.
And then there's the second kind of love called agape.
Amen.
Agape is God's kind of love. It's the God kind of love, expecting nothing in return. And I told you last night, because he's a never forsaken God, that he doesn't wait for us to do the right thing before he does the right thing.
Amen.
That the God kind of love means that he's going to love us in spite of how bad we act. That you didn't have to get saved for him to start loving you. While we were yet sinners, Christ died. Who do you think kept you when you couldn't keep yourself? When you was lost in the world? When you hated coming to church? When you didn't know Genesis from Revelations? It was the Lord who kept you. Because he had agape toward us. So in verse 15, Jesus says, Peter, Jesus is really asking Peter, do you agape me? And Peter is saying, Lord, I phileo you. I filial you. We cool like that. I love you, man. But I want you to know that Jesus now tells him to feed his sheep. He's used the word feed there. And he says, in other words, supply